After reading over 70 studies on why we hold on to things, I found out something that surprised me. The problem isn't that we're lazy or disorganized. It's that our brains are literally working against us. I started looking into this because I know what it's like to stand in a room and feel overwhelmed. You want to make progress, but every item feels like a decision you're not ready to make. And the usual advice, the 3-box method, the keep, donate, toss approach, it sounds good, but it ignores how our minds actually work. That's why so many of us end up sitting on the floor hours later with the same piles and a lot more guilt. What I found in all that research from behavioral scientists, gerontologists, people who study how we make decisions is that there's a better way. Not a system you have to follow perfectly, just a few small shifts in how you think about your stuff. Shifts that work with your brain instead of against it. And the more I worked with these ideas, the more I realized something. Decluttering isn't really about the stuff. It's about the decisions we haven't made. Every item in your home is a decision waiting to happen, and the longer we wait, the harder those decisions feel. So what I'm sharing with you today is a way to make those decisions easier, not by working harder, but by changing the questions we ask. Let me tell you about the question that changed everything for me. For years, I'd ask myself the usual things. Do I still love this? Is it worth something? But the truth is, when there's even a little memory attached, the answer is almost always yes. That's how we end up with closets full of things we haven't looked at in decades. So I started asking a different question. It's a little harder, but it cuts through all the noise. I ask myself, would I want my children or whoever I love to have to deal with this in the middle of the night after I'm gone? I know that sounds heavy, but think about it for a moment. When you imagine your family, tired, maybe already grieving, having to figure out what to do with every single thing in your house, suddenly the decision becomes clearer. You start to see which things are actually gifts and which things are just burdens waiting to be passed on. I remember a woman named Margaret. She had her mother's dining room set big oak table, 12 chairs. It filled the whole room. She never used it, but she couldn't let it go. She'd tried a few times, actually. She'd walk into the dining room, look at it, and walk back out. It wasn't until her daughter said, "Mum, I love you, but I already have a table, and I don't have space for this. Please don't make me figure it out later," that something shifted. Margaret told me she cried a little when the consignment shop came to get it. But she kept one little vase from her mother, and she said the dining room felt like it could breathe for the first time in years. She also said, "I still think about the table sometimes, but I don't regret letting it go. I regret how long I let it take up space in my head." That shift in perspective, thinking about what we're leaving behind, not just what we're keeping, has helped so many people I know finally let go of things that were weighing them down. Now, here's where I got really honest with myself. It's not the things we love that trip us up. It's the things we intended to love. The projects, you know what I mean, the fabric for a quilt you meant to sew, the wood in the garage for a birdhouse, the knitting yarn you bought when you still had the eyes for it. I had a friend who kept a model ship kit in his basement for 23 years. 23 years. He'd move it from one shelf to another every time he cleaned. He told me, "Someday I'll have the time." I asked him, "If you had the time today, Would you even want to glue together a tiny wooden ship? He laughed and admitted he'd rather watch golf. That ship went to a neighbour's kid who built it in a weekend. These things aren't just objects, they're promises we made to ourselves. And letting them go feels like breaking a promise. One of the studies I came across talked about something called the IKEA effect. It's a real term from Harvard and Yale. It means we value things we built or started more than things we bought finished. That half-finished bookshelf feels like it's worth more because we put effort into it. The trouble is, when a project stays unfinished for years, it stops being a project. It becomes a weight, a reminder of what we didn't do. So I made a little rule for myself. If I haven't touched it in a year, and I can't finish it in 30 minutes right now, then it's not a project anymore. It's just something taking up space. I think sometimes we hold on to those things because they represent who we used to be, the person who quilted, the person who built things. But if your hands don't work like they used to, or your eyesight makes it hard, keeping the materials doesn't keep you. It just keeps you surrounded by things you can't use. Letting them go to someone who can use them, that's not losing yourself. That's making room for who you are now. And then there's the money trap. Oh, the money trap. This one gets me every time. We look at something, a piece of furniture, a set of golf clubs, a treadmill we bought for $800, and we think, I can't just give that away. It's worth something. So we hold on to it, and we hold on to it, and years go by, and it's still sitting there, costing us space and peace of mind. I had a treadmill like that. I bought it in a burst of January enthusiasm. It sat in my bedroom for 5 years. I used it maybe 4 times. But every time I thought about getting rid of it, I'd do the math. I paid $800. That's $200 per use. I can't just give away $200 per use. My husband finally said, Honey, you've already paid for it. Now you're paying for it again every time you have to dust it. He was right. The researchers have a name for this. It's called the endowment effect. Once something is ours, we think it's worth more than it really is. That treadmill you paid $800 for? In your mind, it's still worth $800. But to anyone else, it's a bulky machine they have to haul up the stairs. So I started doing something different. Instead of trying to get top dollar, I ask myself, what would it cost me to get this out of here today? And sometimes I'll say to a neighbour or a friend, I've got 3 things, a bookcase, a set of mixing bowls, and an old armchair. If you take all of them today, you can have them for $20. And they're gone. In one afternoon, I freed up space that was costing me stress every single day. If you want to get practical about it, think about how much you're paying per square foot for your home. If your house costs you $2 a month for every square foot, and that treadmill takes up 20 square feet, you're paying $40 a month to store something you're not using. Keeping it to sell for $50 someday means you're actually losing money the longer you hold on to it. Letting go of the money you already spent is hard. I know it is, but keeping the thing doesn't get the money back. It just costs you more. All right, so we're making progress getting stuff out. But here's the sneaky part, the stuff that keeps creeping back in. You know how it goes. Someone offers you a free mug from the bank. A neighbour is downsizing and asks if you want her extra knickknacks. You see something on sale and you think, that's a good deal. It's easier to say yes than to think about where it's going to go. I used to have a collection of free promotional mugs. I think I had 12 at one point. I don't even drink coffee. I just kept saying yes because it felt rude to say no. One day, I lined them all up and realized I'd never used a single one. They were just taking up cabinet space that could have held actual food. I read about a simple way to handle this. For a little while, say, 30 days, treat your home like a hotel room. In a hotel, you don't bring anything in unless you have a place for it. There's no, I'll find a spot later. Later never comes. So, before anything new comes through the door, I ask myself, do I have an empty spot for this right now? Not a spot I could clear out, not a spot I might make later, an empty spot today. If the answer is no, then the answer to taking it is also no. Now, I know some of you are thinking, that sounds great, but I have a husband who brings home flea market finds, or I'm helping take care of a grandchild, and things come in faster than I can manage. I hear you. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being intentional. So, if you're in a situation where you can't control everything that comes in, focus on the things you can control. Your own purchases, the mail, the free items you're offered. Start there. Even if you only manage to slow the inflow by half, that's progress. And over time, it adds up. It sounds strict at first, but after a few weeks it becomes a habit, and it keeps all that hard work you did from slowly reversing. This next one is delicate. It's about the people we love and the stuff we think they want. We hold on to things because we're afraid of upsetting our children. We think, they'll want this someday. So we wait, and we wait. And eventually, the things are still here, and nobody's happy. The research on families and inheritance shows that most arguments between siblings aren't over the expensive stuff. They're over the emotional stuff. The cookie jar from childhood, the rocking chair everyone rocked in. And the arguments happen because nobody talked about it while the parent was still healthy and could make the decision. I had a friend who kept her mother's china for 15 years. It was beautiful gold rims, hand-painted flowers. She never used it because she was afraid of breaking it. Her daughter, when she got married, said, "Mom, I'd love to have that china someday." So my friend held on to it. 10 years later, the daughter moved across the country and said, "Mum, I don't have room for china. I use Corel." My friend finally gave the set to a young couple who actually wanted it and used it every Sunday. She told me, I was keeping it for a life that didn't exist. So here's an approach that's worked for a lot of people I know. Instead of asking, "Who wants this someday?" ask, "Who can come get this today?" Send a text to your kids, a photo of the dining set, a photo of the china cabinet. Say, "I'm ready to pass these along. If you want them, come get them by Saturday. After that, I'm letting them go." Now, I'll be honest, this doesn't always go smoothly. Sometimes nobody steps up, and that's hard. Sometimes multiple people want the same thing, and that's its own challenge. And sometimes family members say they want something, but they can't take it right now, and you're left holding it for another 6 months. That's real. So let me say this, if someone genuinely wants something and will use it, and you're happy to hold it for a set amount of time, say 60 days, that's okay. The key is having a deadline. Otherwise, someday turns into never. And you're the one carrying the weight. It's not about being harsh. It's about giving your family the gift of clarity. And it saves you from spending years holding on to things for people who, in the end, don't actually want them. Okay, I need to get serious for a minute, but I promise there's a tape measure involved. I've learned that clutter isn't just about how a room looks. It can actually be a risk. There are studies that show one of the biggest predictors of falls in older adults is clutter in the pathways. A stack of books by the bedside, a rug that's curled up, a hallway that's narrowed down to less than a foot wide. My neighbour Carol found this out the hard way. She had a beautiful old rocking chair that she loved, but she kept it in the hallway outside her bedroom because there was no other spot for it. One night, she got up to use the bathroom, forgot the chair was there, and tripped. She was lucky, just a bruised hip. But she told me afterward, I was keeping that chair because my mother rocked me in it. My mother would have killed me if she knew I broke my hip because of it. So I started doing something simple. I walk through the house with a tape measure. Any hallway that's less than 3 feet wide, I clear it. Any path to the bed or the bathroom that's blocked, I move things out of the way. When I think about it like that, it stops being about getting rid of my things. It becomes about making sure I can get to the bathroom safely in the middle of the night. It becomes about making sure that if a paramedic ever needs to get a stretcher to my bedside, they can. That shift in thinking from aesthetics to safety takes away so much of the guilt. You're not throwing away your mother's lamp. You're making sure you don't trip over the cord. This next one sounds simple, but it took me years to figure out. I think of it as the one-touch rule. Have you noticed how there's always a spot, a table, a chair, the kitchen island where things just collect? Mail, keys, papers, a jacket. It sits there and we walk past it thinking, I'll deal with that later. And later never comes and the pile grows. My dining room table was like that for a long time. It started with the mail, then the library books, then a sweater I meant to return, then some paperwork. Eventually, we were eating dinner on TV trays because the table had become a horizontal filing system. My husband joked that we needed to set a place for the pile at Thanksgiving. The one-touch rule is simple. When something comes into the house, you touch it once and you put it in its final place. Mail gets sorted at the mailbox. Junk mail goes into the recycling before you even come inside. Bills go to the desk. Groceries go straight into the pantry, not left on the counter for later. I'll be honest, I don't do this perfectly every day. There are mornings when I'm tired and the mail sits on the counter for a day or two. That's fine. The goal isn't to be rigid. It's to notice when that pile starts to grow and catch it before it becomes a permanent fixture. That pile, the purgatory pile, I call it, is the enemy. It grows because every time we see it, we feel a little twinge of guilt and then we ignore it. But if you never let it start, it never has a chance to become part of the landscape. Now for the hardest ones. The things that feel like they're made of memory. I've learned something from the research on memory. The physical object isn't what holds the memory. You can let the object go and the memory stays. In fact, sometimes holding on to the thing keeps us from actually remembering. We just look at it, feel a little tug, and put it back. I had a box of my grandmother's things. Her handkerchiefs, a little ceramic bird, a ring that was too small for anyone to wear. I kept that box for years, moving it from closet to closet. One day, I opened it and realized I hadn't actually remembered my grandmother in years. I'd just been moving the box. So here's what I've done with the things that felt impossible to part with. I take a photo, a nice one. I lay the items out, get good light, take a picture, then let the objects go. I knew a woman who had dozens of her mother's brooches. She never wore them, but she couldn't give them away, so she laid them out, took a beautiful photograph, had it framed, and gave the brooches to a local theatre group that uses vintage jewellery for costumes. Now she sees that photo every day. She sees her mother's taste, her style, but she's not dusting 40 brooches anymore. She kept one small box, a shoebox size of the things that meant the most. And she said that one box felt like enough. I did the same with my grandmother's things. I kept the ring, it fits my pinky, and one handkerchief. I took a photo of the rest. Now when I see the photo, I actually sit and remember her. The box is gone, but the memories are more alive than ever. And here's the final piece. The one that feels like giving yourself permission to be human. There's a concept in psychology called the end of history illusion. It means we believe that we're going to change more in the future than we have in the past. So we keep things for a future self that never arrives. We think, I'll get to that someday, but someday doesn't come. For the things that are still hard, the things you're fighting yourself over, the things that cause the most stress, I've learned it's okay to bring in someone who does this for a living, not a junk hauler, but someone called a senior move manager. They're trained to help people downsize with compassion. They understand that the Hummel figurines matter. Even if you're ready to let them go, they're neutral, they're efficient. And they can do in one day what might take a family 6 months of emotional turmoil. I had a relative who resisted this for years. She said, I'm not paying someone to take my stuff. Finally, after a minor health scare, she agreed to have a senior move manager come for one afternoon. The woman came in, sat with her, and they went through the house room by room. She didn't pressure her. She just asked gentle questions. By the end of the day, they'd filled a truck with donations, and my relative said, why didn't I do this 5 years ago? I know it feels like an expense. But when I think about the cost of not doing it, the hours lost, the family tension, the risk of trying to move a heavy dresser alone, it starts to look like a gift to myself, permission to let go. What I hope you've noticed as we've gone through these ideas is that they all point in the same direction. They're not about forcing yourself to be ruthless. They're about finding a way to make the decision clearer, whether it's asking a different question, setting a deadline, or letting someone else help. Each of these shifts removes a little bit of the mental weight, and over time, those little shifts add up to a home that feels lighter. If I could leave you with one thought, it's this. Every object in your home is a decision you haven't made yet, and those decisions don't get easier with time. They get heavier. But the good news is, you get to decide. You get to decide what stays, what goes, and what kind of home you want to live in. You deserve a home that feels like a place to rest, not a place to manage. You deserve to know that the people you love will remember you for who you were, not for the boxes they had to sort through. Pick one thing from today, just one. Maybe it's asking a different question about something you've been holding on to. Maybe it's calling a neighbour to take that treadmill. Maybe it's just walking through your house with a tape measure and clearing a path to the bathroom. Whatever it is, Be gentle with yourself. This isn't about perfection. It's about making a little more room for the life you're living right now. If you think this might help someone you know, I hope you'll share it with them. And if you'd like to see more conversations like this, you're always welcome to subscribe and tap that little bell so you don't miss the next one. Thank you for sitting with me. Take care of yourself, friend.